The night has always been an ally of special forces. In darkness, it's easier to disappear, easier to strike without warning, and vanish as quickly as you came. Helicopters without insignia slice across the desert sky. Below, dark figures prepare to deploy. They wear no patches, no names, their faces hidden beneath helmets and night vision goggles. This is Delta Force. Elsewhere in the world, in the freezing ocean, a group of swimmers moves silently through the water. Their lungs burn, but their strokes remain steady. They will surface only when it's time to kill. These are the Navy SEALs. And far away in the mountains, men in green berets lead a group of local fighters they've trained themselves. Their strength isn't just in weapons, but in trust. These are the Green Berets. 3 forces, 3 legends, 3 different philosophies of war. Delta Force, officially the first Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta, was born from failure. In 1980, America attempted a daring rescue of hostages in Iran. The mission, called Operation Eagle Claw, collapsed in fire and wreckage. Aircraft crashed in the desert. Soldiers died before they ever reached Tehran. The failure shocked the U.S. into realizing it needed a unit like Britain's SAS. A unit that could move in shadows, strike with precision, and vanish without leaving a trace. Colonel Charles Beckwith, who had trained with the SAS, built Delta Force to be that unit. To this day, Delta's operators live as ghosts. Their names are secret, their victories often never acknowledged. But behind the silence are missions that changed history, finding Saddam Hussein, eliminating terrorist leaders, rescuing hostages in Iraq and Syria. One Delta operator once described their selection with bitter humor: they give you a map, but the map is wrong. That's the point. It's not about distance. It's about what you do when nothing makes sense. Their training pushes candidates into exhaustion until only calm, adaptive minds remain. In the field, Delta's weapons are not uniform. The 416 Hong Kong dollars rifle is popular, but each man customizes his own: optics, suppressors, grips, lasers. One veteran said, "The rifle is an extension of your hands. Nobody tells you how your hands should look." Their sidearms range from Glock 17s to SIG P320s, depending on preference. Equipment is personal, what matters is reliability, not regulation. The Navy SEALs took a different path. Created in 1962 at President Kennedy's order, they inherited the legacy of World War II frogmen and Italian combat divers who pioneered underwater sabotage. From the beginning, SEALs specialized in doing the impossible from the sea. Their training remains infamous. Hell Week is only 5 days, but those 5 days break almost everyone. One former SEAL recalled, "Cold water is our friend." That's what the instructors said. If you don't make peace with the cold, you won't make it as a SEAL. Out of 100 candidates, maybe 20 survive. Those who do become masters of sea, air, and land. Their weapons reflect their missions. The 416 Hong Kong dollars is the rifle of choice, praised for firing even after mud and salt water. Glocks ride in waterproof holsters. Their helmets are lightweight OPS-core fast models, with mounts for night vision. The PVS-14 goggles give them vision in the dark, but with a flaw. As one SEAL admitted, a single flashbang blinds you. 5 seconds of white blindness. Sometimes that's all the enemy needs. The SEALs' defining operation came in 2011, Neptune Spear. SEAL Team 6 flew into Abbottabad, Pakistan, in modified stealth Black Hawks. They stormed the compound of Osama bin Laden and ended a decade of manhunt in 40 minutes. The operation cemented the SEALs as legends, but also raised questions about sovereignty, legality, and the thin line between justice and assassination. The Green Berets, by contrast, were never about lightning strikes. Founded in 1952, they were designed for the long war. Their motto, De Oppresso Liber, to free the oppressed, reveals their mission. They are teachers, diplomats, and guerrilla leaders. Green Berets spend months studying languages and cultures. One veteran explained, "You can't train someone to fight if you can't drink tea with him first." In Afghanistan in 2001, they made history. Riding horses with the Northern Alliance, they led charges against Taliban tanks and artillery. Outnumbered, outgunned, but victorious, thanks to their ability to merge modern air power with ancient cavalry. Local fighters called them the warriors on horses. To this day, that image defines the Green Berets, soldiers who build armies from nothing. Yet every legend carries scars. Delta Force stumbled in Eagle Claw. The SEALs were shattered in Operation Red Wings in 2005, when 4 operators were ambushed in Afghanistan. 3 died. Only 1 survived. His story became Lone Survivor, a reminder that even the toughest soldiers can be broken. The Green Berets suffered in Vietnam, where their reliance on local allies sometimes backfired. Betrayals, misinformation, shifting loyalties, they learned the hardest lesson: you cannot win a war without winning trust, and trust can vanish overnight. On the world stage, these American units are often compared to others. The British SAS, who stormed the Iranian embassy in London in 1980, are admired even by Delta operators, since Delta's roots are in their tactics. The French GIGN became legends after storming Air France Flight 8969 in 1994, saving passengers in a brutal close-quarters battle. Germany's GSG-9 earned fame in Mogadishu in 1977, rescuing hostages from a hijacked Lufthansa flight. American units study these operations, respect them, and sometimes even train alongside them. There is no monopoly on excellence, only different nations with their own elite. So who is the best? The truth is simple: there is no single best. Delta Force are the surgeons of battle. The Navy SEALs are the hammers of covert war. The Green Berets are the strategists of the long fight, weaving alliances and building resistance. Each is indispensable. Together, they give America a spectrum of power that few nations can match. But this story doesn't end here. Because across the ocean, in Europe, there are forces that the Americans themselves admire, and sometimes even fear. SAS, GIGN, GSG-9. Units that proved their worth in operations where the margin of error was 0, and failure meant hundreds dead. They too carry their own legends. And their stories are waiting to be told. The world of special forces is not owned by America alone. Across the Atlantic, in Europe, 3 names carry the same weight of fear, respect, and legend. SAS, GIGN, GSG-9. Units born not from ambition, but from tragedy, from hijackings, hostage crises, and the bloody lessons of modern terrorism. The Special Air Service, the SAS, is Britain's shadow. Their motto, "Who dares wins," is more than words, it is the DNA of the unit. They were forged in the deserts of World War II, where small bands of raiders struck deep behind enemy lines, destroying airfields and convoys. But their reputation was sealed decades later, in 1980, on the streets of London. When armed terrorists stormed the Iranian embassy, taking hostages, Britain watched in horror as the siege dragged on for days. Then the world saw something it had never seen before. Black-clad men in gas masks stormed the building in daylight. Explosions blew out the windows, gunfire echoed, and in just 17 minutes the siege was over. Hostages saved. Terrorists dead. The images of masked SAS troopers descending from the roof became iconic. A silent message: Britain had its own ghosts, and they were not to be crossed. France's GIGN, Groupe d'Intervention de la Gendarmerie Nationale, was born from another tragedy, the 1972 Munich Olympics, where terrorists murdered Israeli athletes while the world watched. France decided it would never again be caught unprepared. GIGN was formed as a counter-terror unit that specialized in precision and psychology as much as firepower. Their operators are trained negotiators, marksmen, and close-quarters fighters. Their defining moment came in 1994, when Air France Flight 8969 was hijacked in Algiers. The terrorists planned to crash the plane into Paris. For days, the world held its breath. When the aircraft finally landed in Marseille, GIGN stormed the jet in a storm of gunfire. In less than 3 minutes, all 4 hijackers were dead, and the passengers were alive. Survivors later said they had never seen such cold precision. The GIGN troopers fired with such control that not a single bullet hit a hostage. One operator later recalled, "We don't aim for center mass in those situations. We aim for the eyes. There is no margin for error." That brutal honesty is part of what makes GIGN feared and respected. Germany's GSG-9, Grenzschutzgruppe 9, was also born from Munich's blood. In 1977, when Lufthansa Flight 181 was hijacked and flown across the Middle East, it finally landed in Mogadishu, Somalia. The terrorists demanded the release of their comrades. Germany faced a nightmare: either surrender or risk slaughter. They chose GSG-9. Under cover of darkness, operators approached the plane. In a sudden assault, they stormed the cabin, killed the hijackers, and rescued all 86 passengers. The world was stunned. Germany, still haunted by Munich, had redeemed itself. From then on, GSG-9 became one of the premier counter-terror units in Europe, often deployed abroad and praised for its speed and discipline. Each of these units has its own character. The SAS thrive on daring, using audacity as a weapon. GIGN combines patience and negotiation with surgical violence. GSG-9 embodies precision, discipline, and the willingness to act where diplomacy fails. Their weapons reflect their style. The SAS often favor compact carbines like the 416 Hong Kong dollars or C8 SFW, suppressed pistols, and breaching tools for urban raids. GIGN are known for their sniper rifles, Accuracy International, Hecate 2, because many of their missions end with a single shot. GSG-9, working closely with German police and military, use a mix of MP5 submachine guns, HK-G36 carbines, and high-tech breaching gear. But as one French operator once said, the weapon doesn't matter. It's the will to walk into the room first. Yet even legends face dilemmas. The SAS, during the Troubles in Northern Ireland, were accused of operating in the gray zone between war and assassination. GIGN has been criticized for its extreme methods, where negotiation sometimes turns into intimidation. GSG-9 has dealt with the burden of Germany's history, knowing that one failure could bring back the ghosts of Munich. All 3 units live under the weight of expectation. They cannot afford to fail, because the world will see it live on television. And yet, they rarely fail. Their reputations remain intact, carved in the memories of the crises they ended. SAS, GIGN, GSG-9, names that carry as much power as Delta, SEALs, or Green Berets. So who stands above the rest? The answer is the same as before. None of them alone. Each one is the best at what they do. The SAS bring audacity. GIGN brings cold precision. GSG-9 brings flawless discipline. Together, they form Europe's answer to the chaos of modern terrorism. But even these legends are not the end of the story. Because beyond the West, in Russia, Israel, and China, there are units whose reputations are darker, whose missions are shrouded in secrecy, and whose methods have shocked the world. Spetsnaz. Sayeret Matkal. The Snow Leopard Unit. They too have written their stories in blood. And their tales are waiting to be told.